Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Trust the Profits. This is Doubling Down, and I am your host, Colin Sheehan. We look at a daily double each week. This week's episode starts off on a little bit of a sad note as I pass along my condolences to all the friends and family of Chuck Simon. Just a huge personality in the world of horse racing that we lost. And as someone that's just recently gotten into it much more serious as I started joining Trust the Profits over the last couple of years and being active on Twitter, Chuck was there supporting me, messaging me in DM kind of out of nowhere, liking my tweets, liking my content, and was very supportive. And I had the pleasure of meeting Chuck with Sean Patrick Nolan up at Saratoga on Whitney weekend last year. And we had a nice, quick, brief exchange, and he couldn't have been nicer to me. And it's just so sad that we have this loss of someone who brought so many experiences in being in all different parts of the industry to the podcast that he does or did with Barry. And Barry's another friend who's been on here with Doubling Down. So my condolences, especially to Barry and also to all of those in the Chuck Simon family. We will certainly miss you. You can go back and listen to his Going in Circles podcasts. The stuff he talks about on there still is ideas that we want to pay attention to and have Chuck's memory live on through that. So with that said, we will welcome in a new guest this week on Doubling Down, Ben over from Equibase. I was on his show 2 weeks ago. We're going to put him up to the Daily Double Challenge. We're both big fans of RaceLens. We'll walk through a little bit of that for you as well. We're going to go to Churchill Downs, and we finally have some Kentucky Derby points already on the line. Imagine that as we enter the fall season 2024. Here we go. Let's get going. That's right, a new voice, Ben. That's what I always try to do here on the show is introduce the viewers to new handicappers. And we had a great conversation 2 weeks ago on the Inside Track podcast over on Equibase. Big fan of RaceLens and what you guys have going on there. So first of all, welcome to Doubling Down for your debut.
Oh, I appreciate it, Colin. And you're such a positive, really good dude, and I love talking horses with you. So thank you so much for having me on and get to talk about these two great races. And finally, the road to the Kentucky Derby starts on Saturday. So excited to discuss it.
It's crazy to say. We talked offline when I was joining your show about how you got into horse racing. I'd love for you to tell the people your background because I think it's very unique.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in the Chicago suburbs, right by Arlington Park. At first my parents had some sheep claimers. When my brother and I were born, they kind of stopped owning for a little bit, and then they got into West Point Thoroughbreds. Great organization, great ownership group for anybody who kind of wants to start in the game. Low percentages, just kind of get the full experience of horse ownership. And then, I was 14 years old, and I started hot walking for Mark Cassey at Arlington Park. And so that was great. I kind of learned the ropes, and really fun summer. I worked with my brother and his girlfriend. And then, I went back to high school, and then I came back and worked for Mike Stidham. I was hot walking, then went to grooming. Then a year after that, Cassey gave me a call, and he's like, "You want to go to Del Mar?" I was like, "Yeah." So I was just 16 years old, and I went out there and was just grooming the ponies, the outrider ponies, and hot walking, and just a great time. Fantastic experience. And went back to Chicago and worked for Mike Stidham throughout high school. Ended up going to college at University of Kentucky. So I started out in the equine science program there. And from there I started working at Rose Hill Farm in Lexington. I was there for off and on about 5 years. In between, kind of added some jobs to it. Finished school, went back to the racetrack my junior year, dropped out of school, and then I was assistant for Matt Yates at the training center. We had a really small stable, but we loved it. We ended up winning a race at Keeneland. We just had a ton of fun. At the same time, I was working for a horse rescue, National Thoroughbred Welfare Organization, Nicholasville, Kentucky. That was a great experience, kind of being on the track, being on the farms, and then you kind of see the the aftercare of horses. Sometimes it can be intense. Sometimes it can be a very fulfilling story. Just kind of depends. I decided to go back to school. I ended up finishing my major in agriculture economics. And so I decided to leave the horse business for a little bit. I worked for a grain elevator in Jeffersonville, Indiana. Was kind of unhappy, missed the animals, missed the horses, missed that lifestyle. So got a job working as the foreman for Kentucky Equine Hospital in Simpsonville, Kentucky. And then I kind of got tired of that after about a year and moved to Alabama on the beach, worked for a parasailing company and just had fun. And then got a call for a job as assistant farm manager at Warhorse Place back in Lexington, Kentucky. So I took that. And then that kind of led to my job here at Equibase, social media coordinator, and started this Inside Track podcast for them. So horse racing has kind of been my life. I love it. It's my everything. My favorite thing to do, favorite thing to talk about. So.
Yeah, I think that perspective is so cool, and I think when I first listened to you on your podcast, I didn't get all of that. You just kind of handicap the races, and I think it's so important to give viewers some of that perspective of, not just some young kid at Equibase doing the social media. You've been in the trenches and you've done the jobs and you've done the traveling. You've been all over the country, so it's so exciting to welcome you to put that handicapping to the test. We're putting together a daily double on this show. Is the daily double a bet that you use in your repertoire? Are you comfortable with the daily double, or is it a little bit, are you good with that?
I do. I normally kind of do pick fives and pick sixes, and in between I'll do doubles and pick threes to kind of make my money back if I don't win. But I definitely do use a double a lot. Definitely bet I'm comfortable with, and it just kind of depends though. I mean, you can get 5-2 shots in a row and you just kind of barely make your money back, but sometimes you get some poppers. So.
Well, we're going to try and get some poppers. I like a 12-1 shot in the Iroquois, and I'm going to single this horse, and that's rare for me on this show. So we'll see if we can get through. But before we get to that race, we got to start off on race 9, Churchill Downs. Good to see Churchill Downs back for the fall meet. This is the Louisville Thoroughbred Society Stakes for 3-year-olds and up, a field of 10. You've got some horses that, when I first looked through it, just with names I recognized. Of course, Cyclone Mischief, who was in that Kentucky Derby with Mage a few years ago. Manny Waz, a horse you've seen around the circuits for quite a while. Skelly, a horse that's had some success lately along with Necker Island. So you get a nice healthy field of 10. RaceLens is great at giving me the angles right here. You see them right on the right side. These are angles that I've put into the system that it pops up for me. I've gone through already and looked through them. Usually I'm looking for success scores, Ben, of around 6.5 and above, and that's kind of what really stands out to me. You got a lot here of horses that have raced a lot are going to come up with some angles that isn't necessarily going to jump right at me and be able to pick a winner off of some of these, but it helps guide you. And as I started to go through the past performances here for race 9, I thought that there was a interesting thing happened in this race where way on the outside, you have number 10 Skelly, and that was the horse who I talked about who's had a lot of success, 10 victories out of 17 races, 6 seconds. So 16 for 17. This horse finishes first or second, right? I mean, a lot of success in first or second, over 1.6, almost 1.7 million in earnings, trained by Steve Asmussen. Ricardo Santana stays aboard. Certainly someone to have a strong consideration about. But one thing this horse has not had to do was be all the way on the outside in the 10 hole. And when you're the early speed and you got some early speed, you're inside. This horse has gone against 2 big fields. He had a field of 11 when he finished second and broke his maiden against a field of 10, but he was on the inside that day. Otherwise, it's fields of 6, 7, and he's kind of been in the middle or the inside of that. So I think there's some skepticism that I had in using Skelly, but I ultimately am going to use him. You have a grade 1 last time out, finishing second behind Nakatami, grade 3 winner here. I think he's enough where I have a nice price in the second leg that I'm going to use him. Is Skelly one that made your ticket?
Absolutely. I think you just look at this horse. I mean, exactly like you said. I mean, multiple grade stake winner, and you just gotta use him. I mean, it's tough. He's a morning line 2-1. I thought he would be honestly less. But if you're playing doubles, I definitely would play the safer route and put him in, especially if you're just doing $1. I mean, why not? But I definitely will use him. I don't think he'll win though. The one I'm kind of really leaning towards is the one that beat him 2 starts back, close the game, Sugar. This 4-year-old gelding purchased for $10K. I think he's a clear winner here, 100% in the money. At Churchill, 2 wins, 1 second from 3 starts, 100% in the money at the distance, 2 wins and 2 seconds from 4 starts. Second last time out to champion spinner, the Chosen Brawn, and that grade 1 Bing Crosby. And like we saw today at at Kentucky Downs, Irad Ortiz Jr. been riding lights out. And this trainer is kind of interesting. They don't have a whole lot of races together, him and Irad Ortiz Jr., but since 1991, they do win at 60% together and 100% in the money. That is just from 5 starts, but they do have 3 wins. And I love these increasing Equibase speed figures, and that he threw that 115 last time out, and that could be kind of skeptical for some handicappers. Like, well, can he repeat that? Well, in Adam Rice's case, the trainer, he does. So he wins at 33% and 67% in the money in non-graded stakes races with horses who earn their best Equibase speed figure last time out. I think that's very important. So he gets him back ready, slight layoff there from July 27th. But I was a little bit disappointed when the morning lines came out that he was 9-5. But I think honestly more people from a public perspective are going to bet down Skelly a little bit more. But if you look at those true odds on RaceLens, which is a really cool feature that does predictive analysis, they gave him a 27.5% chance of winning with odds of 5-2. And they gave close the game Sugar 7-2, which honestly is pretty fair considering close the game Sugar was 18-1, just 3 starts back when he beat Skelly in the Aristides at Churchill by a length. I'm kind of interested to see how this race will play out. I can kind of see that this group splitting up into 2 with 2 kind of a large gap in between. But I would be pretty close to kind of singling close the game Sugar for me. I think he's got it all. So that's my number 1 play. If I want to save money, I'll definitely single him. But I would add Skelly. If you're doing for $1, might as well. I mean, he's got a pretty good chance out there as well. But like you said, I mean, he's never really been with these full fields besides a couple of times, and he's always kind of had a good post position. And now here he is way out there in the 10 hole. So,
yeah, and RaceLens actually projects this pace to be a slow one, and those percentages you talked about are right here. RaceLens allows you to actually adjust some factors that you have on these races. That's why the percentages might be a little bit different. I tend to just go speed, class, form, and pace. That's the fundamentals of handicapping to me. I apply it that way, and RaceLens comes up immediately with the 2 that we just talked about, the 10 and the 2, pretty close at the top, and 60% in the money for 2, 54% in the money for 10. So RaceLens is seeing it pretty similar to how we were as well. I'm also going to use close the game on my ticket for many of the reasons that you had just said. And we have a new game here on doubling down, which is the fans have to drink every time we talk about increasing speed figures, because that's something that I always talk about. And so people will always say I'm the one that says it, but I'm glad that you saw it and you said it without me needing to be the first one. So I'm going to get a sound effect for that eventually on one of these shows. And when someone says it, we'll hit it and they'll have to drink up. But that is exactly what I saw as well. And the other thing that I saw, although you're skeptical of that 115, it highlights it in blue for me on my past performances. You can customize that, because that means that this horse is the highest in the race as far as distance and surface, highest speed figure, and also class, which is the 114. So that race came back with 114 in highest class in this race. Finished second behind the Chosen Brawn, but he's a 4-year-old. Is he going to put up another 115? I could be skeptical of that, but I'm pretty confident with the 109 and the 106 in the 2 races prior to that he's at least going to be in that range. And that absolutely kind of gives him a great shot in here.
Yeah, that's a good point. Honestly, I don't think he really needs to throw another 115 to win this race, in all honesty. Most likely he won't, but you never know. I mean, he's a good horse. I love how he's only bought for 10,000. I love stories like that.
Yeah,
With
isn't that
Gerben,
awesome?
love that.
You got some 7 and 8 year olds in here who that would be the ones I'd be more concerned about, such as Maniwa. I was interested a little bit in Hear My Song, but I didn't end up using on my ticket. The other horse I'm going to use in this leg, I am going to go to the 7-year-old Disco Ball. This is a horse that I do think is going to be up front as far as that early speed is concerned, right? So right here we have the projected ratings rank. This is first out of 10, both at the early and middle pace. The concern I have, obviously, which pops out, and it's very easy to see here, is your average class is 10 out of 10. So, and you can tell that just by looking at the races that this horse has been in. It's claimings, optional claimings, not the company that these other horses have been racing against. And this is a 7-year-old stepping into that company. So I completely understand the concerns of using this horse. 12-1 is in, that'll probably float up, I would think, and maybe I can get some more on there. But the angle I'm going to use here is the trainer David Jacobson kind of scares me. Say what you will, he gets horses. He claimed this horse 2 back. Put him in an allowance claiming 32, puts up a 104, goes wire to wire, wins by 9 lengths, comes back in an allowance optional claimer of 80K, wins that one fairly easily, winning by over 2 lengths. So I'm definitely using a little bit of the David Jacobson angle there. And the fact that Luis Saez is aboard, I'm just a huge fan of Luis Saez with horses on the front end. If Skelly has trouble being out there on the way outside, and Disco Ball is the one that kind of can get up on the front with Louis and settle this pace down and hang on. I think that's really what you're hoping for here, is that he hangs on. Disco Ball is the one that I think is going to be interesting. So I'm going to use the 2-5-10 to try and get me through this first leg. You used the 2-10 as well, and you had one more on your ticket.
I did, yeah. I might not use them. I don't necessarily think I need to, but that's the strategy of daily doubles. I mean, if you're going to try to get a popper, try to win. But I like the other 12-1, the 1 horse here, Gulfstream Way. Really interesting horse. So trainer Norm Cassie, he actually wins at 38% in the past 2 years at Churchill, and previously starting a horse at Ellis, which is a fantastic stat, because horses, for example, at Kentucky Downs shipping in from Ellis do notoriously bad. But for him, he kind of takes that to a different level. He was second in this race last year by a head to Bango. Took a little time off after that Grade 2 Phoenix at Keeneland, where he broke outward out of the gate, kind of an awkward start, and went in that 5 horse and took a bad step. He came back to run that Jeff Hall Memorial Stakes at Ellis as his only start in 2024. And I thought he ran a decent second, and I think he really needed that race to kind of get back into these stakes level, races. I mean, I know obviously that was, a stakes race last time, but also Norm Cassidy, he wins at 29% in non-graded stakes, second off the layoff. So I think we can get a nice price on him. He's not my favorite to win, but he could be a popper and maybe someone to add. So,
and the positive that you have over your 12-1 versus my 12-1 is you can see the company this horse has been running against, and you see in the bold that that this horse has at least been competitive against some of these. And my big concern on my horse is that just could step into the waters being too deep. But you got a horse that finished ahead to Bango, who's obviously pretty successful at Churchill. You see Hoist the Gold on there, Hear Me Song, Necker Island. I think you got a pretty good live shot there with the number 1 Gulfstream Way. As we move on to the second leg, that is the Iroquois Stakes. This race does award 10 points towards the 2025 Kentucky Derby. It's the first one to give out points. I can't believe we're already saying that. They're going a mile, and you got a healthy field again of 2-year-olds. You have a field of 12 in here. A competitive field. I think that you have an interesting angle here where the pace setup, you get a great mix of pace, speed on the inside, closers on the outside. I think if you're a pace makes the race types of player, you got an interesting dilemma here to figure out. I am going to save for the people who I love in this race, and we're going to start off with you. Who'd you have on top?
Yeah, I love Sandman. What just a classic colt by Tappet, bought for $1.2 million as a 2-year-old back in March of this year. Really solid last outing at Saratoga. We might even take a look at that. That race replay in that 100K main special weight, running a 91 Equibase speed figure. He sat in that rail mid-pack, made a move up the rail in the final turn. You'll see him on the inside there in the West Point Silks. He's kind of running a little bit different. Then he kind of straightens out, and he just takes it to him. I mean, he's battling. I mean, this is a maiden race. I mean, and look at him. He just takes it to him. I think that was really impressive, especially for a debut. And that was after a furlong stretch out from his debut race of 6 furlongs. So I think just 1 furlong more is really not going to be a problem for him, and might even be better. He's going to probably just sit right off the pace. And, being on the outside with that mile shoot at Churchill, I don't think it's an issue at all, being in that 7-hole. Mark Cassidy and Jose Ortiz in the last 3 years in route races at Churchill went at 44%. That's wild, 67% in the money. Mark Cassidy was killing it back in May and June. He's won 4 out of his 5 last starts in route races at Churchill. And then also, with these 2-year-old races, it can be so tough to handicap these, especially, I think 5 horses in here only have 1 race under their belt. So I think, progeny is really important. So his mare, Distorted Music by Distorted Humor, has lifetime progeny of 33 win percentage in dirt routes. So I think this horse has a ton of potential. He ran the best last out speed figure of a 91. Yeah, there it is, at 33%. So I'm liking him, especially at 6-1. Cassie notoriously, as I worked for him, doesn't really win in first time out. So that 5th to me isn't a huge deal. And the fact that he came back that much better is a huge plus. Love the 6-1. I'll be taking him all the way. But again, this race to me was really tough. You just never know who's going to win these races and where they're going to come from, for example. So in the last 10 years, 5 winners of the Iroquois have come from Ellis Park in their last race, 2 at Prairie Meadows, 2 at Saratoga, and then 1 at Arlington Park, my old stomping grounds, which does not exist anymore. But so they're coming from all over. It's just, and even Dale Romans, he's won 3 out of the last 8 years here. And I love Dale Romans, but his numbers aren't consistently top tier, you could say. But he's a good trainer. But so we'll see. One that really interested me, and I was trying to find stats because I wanted to like this horse more than I could on paper, is that 3 Jack's Time. I watched that race like 3 times this morning, and I thought it was just so impressive. And yes, it was at Prairie Meadows, but like I just said, 2 out of the last 10 years, horses came from Prairie Meadows to win the Iroquois Stakes. So he ended up winning by 10 lengths, 10 3/4 lengths. He's the one there. He had a really tough start at the beginning, and he just rushed up to get that front end. Wasn't the fastest time in the world. And that 6-horse Big Swag, by the way, won next time out. But you'll see him just absolutely just turn on the gas here. And another thing to point out, he's bought for $325,000 as an Iowa bred. Why? Why? And he was bred by All Boss Stables, which very reputable group. But look at that. I mean, this horse could just be a freak. I have no idea. Morning line 10-1. I am incredibly intrigued.
20-1.
20-1. Yeah. So
even better.
I'm definitely going to add him in there.
Too.
Yeah, he could run up the track and get last. I don't know, but that was really, really impressive. And you can't knock horses that are coming from Prairie Meadows. And the fact they thought of him that much for $325,000 for an Iowa bred. I mean, you can't run him in Kentucky Downs and get that $2 million purse,
Yeah.
So,
and into Mischief Dam as well.
Yep. I was looking at that dam. She is actually pretty experienced as a broodmare. Not the greatest stats in the world, but it's another intriguing reason of why would they $325,000. But I do love Not This Time as a stallion. So, but also I got to look how well this horse has been breezing. Maybe the numbers a little bit skewed from Churchill and Saratoga to Prairie Meadows, but he's still throwing bullets. So hard not to knock it. So 20-1, I'll definitely throw him in. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna you got 2 more, but I'm gonna jump in because the people want to know about my my 12-1 shot here, and I'm gonna give you a little background on the Iroquois and how I landed upon my horse. Last year's winner was a horse by the name of West Saratoga, a race that I nailed. It was one that I put out on our YouTube shorts, and I'm very comfortable in the early races of the Derby Trail. I get a lot worse as we get to the big ones, as people know that have watched this show. But early, I do really well. And one thing I've kind of leaned upon in this particular race is the fact that it's a mile, right? And you mentioned a horse, Jack's Time, very good stuff you put on there. But the victory was at 5.5 furlongs. Okay, the 1 raced at 6.5 furlongs. The 4s raced at 7. You have some horses that have gone 7 furlongs. Okay, so we'll put that in the back of our minds for one reason. I also like horses that have had success over the Churchill Downs track coming into this race, and which West Saratoga had last year, 2 seconds coming into this race. And West Saratoga was your most raced racehorse coming into this race, a foundation that the horse had built up. So started off 4.5 furlongs, 5 furlongs, 7 furlongs, stretching him out over the course of multiple races, not just going, let's go 5.5 and jump right up to that mile and hope the horse can handle it. And West Saratoga also came from Ellis Park last year. Now, West Saratoga had the advantage of being a horse that was going to be on the front end, which I definitely would prefer, as opposed to the running style of the horse who I am picking as my single at 12-1, your number 6, Strummin. And I drew a line, which you can do very easily here through this race 2 back at Ellis Park, because it was on the turf. Didn't take to it. Actually, did pass some horses late in the race, but let's just toss that race out, okay? And look at the increasing speed figures on a general sense, starting off in the 70s, moving to the 80s, going up to the 90s. Had a sloppy track at Churchill. It's where you get this 79, but still finished second. Not terrible. And then comes out and puts up an 88, closing like a bat, going from 10th to 1st, 5-6 path in this race at Ellis Park on August 26th. This is reminding me so much of West Saratoga. West Saratoga came into this race last year with 5 races, a first and 3 seconds. Strummin, 6 races, a first and 3 seconds. And everything to me was just popping off the page, as you have an exact same scenario as last year when West Saratoga went off at, guess what, Ben? 12-1. He was an 8-1 morning line, went off at 12-1 and paid off $26 in that race. You know who else came out of last year's Iroquois? The Preakness winner, Seize the Gray, who finished fourth last year in the Iroquois too. So this race has the ability to get them going. Patriot Spirit, I believe, or it might have been Risk It. Risk It was the Steve Asmussen, with the big gun runner who came in last year and went off as the favorite, and was just beat by the horse that had some success both at the distance, at the track, and had a nice foundation of races. So hopefully I've done enough to convince you. Now, you in the lead up to this show said, I love it, but I got a stat that's you're not going to be happy about. So you might as well give the people the honest opinion of where the stat that you found.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And first off, I want to say, I mean, yes, he's a great, was great. But historically, so horses who have run in the Iroquois before running in the Kentucky Derby are 0-29 since the race's first inaugural race, and only 2 in the money, as you can see with Seize the Gray and West Saratoga in last year's Derby. But anyway, the stat I don't want to burst your bubble or anything, but trainer John Hancock has not won a route race at Churchill Downs since 1981. He's over 82. So that is something to consider. Horses are different, but then they're trainers sometimes. But it's just, if we're going off numbers, which we kind of have to with these 2-year-olds sometimes, it's definitely something to consider. I know what you're saying, though. He does look a lot like West Saratoga. And I think in races like this, horses like that can score. And I'm never going to talk you off a 12-1. So absolutely love it. Numbers wise, though, I think Jonathan's Way, that 9 horse at 9-2, is probably going to get you nicest ROI. Romped his debut at Saratoga, winning that 100K main special weight by 4 1/4 lengths, running 89 ESF. And when you watch that race, yeah, so you'll see this at the start. He got pinched at the start, pretty far back, 7th there. He's a number 7 there on the outside. But look at this start. It's pretty bad. He's just way back there in the pink, and he kind of goes up. He's staying there, number 8 there, and I don't know. You get to this part in the race, you look, and he kind of looks like he's laboring already. But you'll really just see he just turns it on.
I think he's the 6, right?
Yeah, the 6 there. Yeah, look at him rush up there.
We'll move it up just so I can see the number. But yeah, he's the 6, and here's where he's making his move. And the concern I had, the reason I ended up singling was the fact that the Vekoma babies have been unbelievable. And that was part of, I think, this burst, and everyone might tend to lean towards that. I'm not sure that Vekoma has any horses that have run routes yet.
No, yeah, very, very good call. He is not, at least not that I could find in the stats I was looking at. But horses by Vekoma are winning at 32% right now in their career second start.
Yeah.
But anyway, look at this horse just go. I mean,
he's looking nice.
This is a career debut. I mean, he's riding him hard, not gonna lie, but I don't know, that was a really impressive, especially at Saratoga. Those maidens races at Saratoga are like a stakes race anywhere else almost. And also too, just Phil Bauer and Joel Rosario, they don't have a whole lot of races together, but again, they win. 56% win percentage together, 67% in the money, 5 wins from 9 starts, and a positive ROI of plus 144%. So 9-2. I like that horse quite a bit. And Owen Almighty there, the 5, I think he's going to be bet down way more than he deserves. I like him. Don't get me wrong, that he's an undefeated colt by Speightstown. Broke his maiden at Churchill, in June by 3.5, running 95 Equibase speed figure, which is actually tied for the 4th best Equibase speed figure for any 2-year-old first-time starter in the past 180 days. So he's fast. Came right back to win that 7 furlong Ellis Park Juvenile by 4 3/4 lengths, beating the 6 in here, Politically Correct. So I mean, he's post 7 in that last race on the outside, and kind of got somewhat into a 3-way duel. He's going head-to-head with Politically Correct, going into the lane, and barely started to drift at the very end. And then he just straightened up and drew clear. But that's what these young horses, I mean, they're learning every single race. And maybe in these little 2-year-old graded stakes races, or even non-graded stakes races, like you said, with your 6 of Strumman, the more races they have, the better. So I do like Owen Almighty, but also Brian Lynch, kind of like your Strumman, is 0 for 19 in the past year in stakes races at Churchill. So that's something to consider. And on the breeding side, though, I love the mare, Tempers Rising. She actually finished 4th in the Kentucky Oaks in 2020. And Owen Almighty is her first full, so she is undefeated progeny as a mare, but could best the field here. I don't know, but I think it's overbet for me. I'll definitely add them. Just kind of have to get your money back if you need them. But to me, I'm all about Sandman and the 3 Jack's Time. There you go. So there's my ticket. Colin's got a lot better price.
Yeah, that's okay. But you talked about some of those singles. So if you want to play a little bit heavier on the 2, 3 cold, you could put more of your bankroll towards that, and then back it up maybe with these other ones. Records are made to be broken. So I'm from Boston, so I'd love to see John Hancock with my influence get that 6 home Strumman, and that would definitely be a nice payout. Otherwise, $3 ticket, can't blame me for that. So I'm going to go 2, 5, 10 with the 6 for $3. Ben from Equibase is going to go 1, 2, 10 with the 3, 5, 7, 10. The ticket there will cost you $12. Ben, let the people know where they can find in the Inside Track.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Inside Track is just a weekly handicapping podcast that we kind of go over the top feature races of the week, give our picks, selections, and analysis. Sometimes I have different guests like Colin, Corey Patton, Ellis Starr, who's an Equibase national racing analyst. You can find us on YouTube at Equibase. I think it's just called Equibase, but you can find all of our podcasts on equibase.com if you go to more in podcast/webinars. I post on social media all of our content. So please check us out. Give us a follow. Give us a like. Just give us a go. Just see if you like it. I'd really appreciate it. So, but thank you so much for having me on, Colin. This has been really fun.
Absolutely. You're going to be a staple on our show in the future. Also, RaceLens has a promotion right now where if you play in the tournaments for NHC, you can sign up for RaceLens and get a special entry into some NHC tournaments that they're running right now too. So go check that out as well. You could sign up for, the $50 unlimited month, and that'll be cheaper than entering for contests to get in yourself into the NHC. So check that out as well. Please like and subscribe. And as always, please drop in the comments who you like, not only for the Iroquois, but the race prior for this week's Doubling Down Daily Double. Again, condolences all to those who were touched by the wonderful Chuck Simon. Until next time, good luck, everybody.